A relationship with the right referral partner could be a game changer for any B2B company. So what if you could reverse engineer these relationships at a moment's notice? Start a podcast, invite potential referral partners to be guests on your show, and grow your referral network faster than ever. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm James Carberry.
And I'm Jonathan Green.
Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. Today we are joined by Dwayne Rainey. Dwayne is the co-founder and president of Advanced Packaging. Dwayne, welcome to the show.
Thank you guys for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show today. I'm glad we were able to connect, and we're going to be talking about something that is, I think, a great problem to have. I mean, it's definitely a problem, but it's a great one to have. It's what do you do once you have the growth? I mean, once you've started this exponential growth, obviously there's going to be a lot of growing pains. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be fun, but we're going to be talking about what do you actually do and how that works. But before we get into it, Dwayne, maybe you can tell us a little about what you and the Advanced Packaging team are up to these days.
Well, Advanced Packaging is a packaging supply house, meaning we distribute pretty much any packaging material that a company would need. Whether the company is a manufacturer of products or a wholesale distributor of products. We can provide those packaging supplies. We also do packaging design and packaging engineering, where we can help people solve their complex problems of how to get this product from point A to point B and help them with that. And then we also do some specialized packaging services where, for example, on-site packaging, not something that we really set out to do or something that we promote, but if we have a customer who needs someone to come in, third party, come into their facility and package a bunch of stuff, which usually does involve design, then, we do those services as well. And then some others. But those are the three main topics of what Advanced Packaging does.
Fantastic. Well, and I know that Advanced Packaging has been ranked as one of the fastest growing companies in the U.S. in 2017. So I know that you're busy. I really appreciate you taking some time out of your schedule today. And I'm excited to talk about, not only the growth that you've experienced, but what do you do? What do you do when you have that growth? So we've got a few points that we're going to get to, starting with how to hire key talent during this growth that continues to set you up for success. So what does that mean to you, Dwayne?
Well, that's something that we're still learning, and we made all the mistakes that you could make probably along the way to figure it out. But in terms of hiring the key talent, I think probably the most important thing is to take your time. Start early and take your time. The mistakes we made in the beginning were when we realized that we were so far behind that we could not go on until we hired somebody to take some of the chores off our list. At that point in time, it was so hectic that we hired the first person with a pulse who halfway seemed ready to do what we needed him to do. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't work. In no way, shape, or form does that work. That is not the way to go. So my advice to anyone who sees substantial growth and has to realize and figure out what to do with it now that it's, barreling down at you, is start early. If you know where the biggest need is, because when you start a company, obviously you're wearing multiple hats, but when you realize the one thing that you need off your plate the most that could free you up to grow the business even further, as soon as you identify that need, even if you feel in your mind that it's 6 months to a year out, start the process. And start the process early and wait until, be picky as you can be, wait till you find the person that just makes your heart feel right, that you found somebody that you don't deserve almost. And there's statistics out there that say that in order to get A-plus talent, you almost have to at least, not almost, I mean the statistics do say that you have to see at least 65 applicants to have any shot at a good percentage of getting an A-plus player. Wow. And I believe that. Yeah, I believe that. I think, the statistics, basically, if you only see 5 candidates, then you have like a 97% failure rate of getting somebody that's not going to work out. And then the further up you go in the terms of number of applicants, then the better your chances are of getting a good employee. But that's the biggest key, is to begin your search early, and also hire early. Like if you really feel like 6 months is that time when you think you'll need that person, go ahead and start looking 6 months ahead. But if you have looked through a number of applicants and 3 months into it, you found that person, then that's the time you need to hire. You don't need to wait until, like we did commonly, which was wait till it was way too far past the time we should have brought them on. And because at that point in time, you can't train them effectively. Your resources are tied up even more so than ever before. So then they just kind of get a crash course and thrown out amongst the wolves, and nothing gets implemented the way you would like it to, and it needs to.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, you have to give yourself that time so you're not scrambling. I love that statistic about having how many applicants you need to see. If you need to see 65 to give yourself a shot at getting some A-plus talent, that's a startling statistic. I wouldn't have thought it was that high, so that's really good to hear.
Neither would I. I had the fortunate privilege of listening to a specialist in that arena, hiring top talent, and that's where I got those numbers from.
That's fantastic. All right, so looking towards the future, when you're hiring your key talent, you're getting on that early. Let's talk about this second point. Is then okay? You're experiencing this growth now. How do you expand your finances with that growth? What does that process look like?
Well, I think for us, you could say that we could have done it differently, and it may or may not have been better. But all I know is how we did it. And now seeing how we did it, how we could have done it differently to have a bigger impact. So we have never borrowed one dime to build the company. We started out with $5,000 a piece, and my business partner continued his day job for 2 years into the existence of the company. From day one, I worked side jobs. I had a background in construction, so I was able to get jobs to put food on the table, and my wife worked at the same time. So with any startup, you had to grind it out until things got rolling. Once they did, we have always grown with our money. We have, for whatever reason, the builder generation, which is 2 or 3 generations back, where they wouldn't finance anything if you couldn't pay cash for it. You didn't need it. You didn't deserve it. That's kind of been our mentality. And there's a lot to be said for that. But at the same time, in the modern day business world, that is not the best way to go if you're trying to cap out the fastest. If you're trying to grow your business as fast as you can grow it, it's probably not the way to do it. And we're just now learning that. So my advice there would be, from our standpoint, what we would do differently if we had the opportunity was start looking at other alternatives for financing early on, not necessarily taking advantage of any of them, because we are successful. We have grown without borrowing any money. However, drop that notion of it's taboo to borrow money to grow your business. You don't want to get in debt because this and that. If you have belief and confidence that your product, whatever it may be, is something that people are going to always need or utilize, or the market's hot and you need to do it now, whatever the reason may be, if you feel confident your growth is going to continue, then drop the notion of borrowing money as taboo. We just feel like what we did has worked for us, but at the same time, our market is so hot. Yeah, we landed ourselves on the Inc. 5000 list, also the fastest growing private company in the state of South Carolina. All that's great for, accolades, but at the same time, we lost out on a lot of opportunity because we chose to, stay this one course and be very diligent not to borrow money. My best advice is just to be very open. People are going to bombard you once you show success with wanting to loan you money. I get 5 calls a day. I would probably get at least 5 calls every day. People, you're pre-approved. But do your own research and find out the types of money that's out there, whether it be a small bank, a large bank, or third-party funding or whatever. Just go ahead and have those options available, and be ready to tap into them if you feel the need.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you've already sort of touched on this idea. This third point is that you also have to kind of weigh the cost, like you said, of some of these lost opportunities versus this idea of growing your finances. So was there anything specific that we didn't touch on in terms of this third point?
Well, yeah, I think you have to realize that when opportunities present themselves, a lot of the time, if not most of the time, you're never going to see that opportunity again. So if you're not ready to pounce when it does present itself to you, then, that may have been your one opportunity at that customer or at that project. And that is the one thing and the reason that I suggest that people be ready and willing to entertain third-party financing, is the fact that we have lost on several big opportunities simply because we were just overwhelmed at the time, stretched too thin, and we tried to make attempts at these opportunities, but it was half-hearted attempts because there's only so many hours in the day, and most of us have to get a little bit of sleep. So, you can try to stay up to 2 o'clock in the morning to put a proposal together for an opportunity, but if you're, if you just don't have the resources and the laborers under you and the faculty to basically have a smooth operating machine, then you're going to miss out on a lot of those opportunities, because it's very clear when somebody, half-heartedly puts a proposal together. And so we've lost out on a lot of opportunities because of just that. We were too thin at the time. We threw a number at it just to be able to present something, but, it was just sloppy, and we missed the opportunity. So you have to, as a business owner, whether you're a career business owner or whether you're new to the game, at some point in time you have to learn to weigh the cost of lost opportunity versus the cost of borrowing money. At some point in time, you've got to figure out how to compare those two things. And, it may be that you don't need to borrow money. Your opportunities are coming in at a rate that you can handle them, and the ones you're losing, you would have lost anyway. It's up to each individual business owner to figure out how to compare those things. But you do have to know there is a time where borrowing money may be the cheaper way to go.
Yeah.
You lose opportunities that could have made you a multimillionaire in 6 months' time. That 3 or 4% or whatever the percentage on the money you could have borrowed doesn't seem too big of a deal.
Yeah, no, certainly not weighed against that. Well, and one of the things I'm loving about this interview is, of course, it's it's all tied together. I mean, you're talking about weighing the cost of lost opportunities that maybe you missed out because, like you said, you didn't have the right team and the right talent in place. We had already talked about how to hire the right talent to set yourself up for success during this growth. We're talking about how to grow your finances. And also, I think very much related, even in your explanation of the third point, is that you also have to be able to adjust your resources during this period of growth. So, I mean, we had talked offline about a couple of different things, the infrastructure, the overhead. What are some things to consider when you are adjusting your resources to match this growth?
Yeah, this is going to be one that's going to be very specific to each different type of industry. But for us, this is probably, out of these topics, this is the one that we're in the middle of right now, the one that we're dealing with the most current. Because of that bootstrap, builder generation mentality where you build it as you go, every department we have is behind. And a lot of that has to do with the amount of opportunity that presents itself to us. There is no shortage of opportunity in the packaging market. I mean, it's one of the largest industries in the world. Nobody really thinks about it. But if you do take a second and think about it, everything that's manufactured in the world is packaged not just once in the primary package that you see in the store or whoever the end user is touches, but in the secondary and tertiary packaging that it takes to get it from point A to point B. So, you need to know that our industry is very, very fortunate with opportunities. But every department we have is behind. And so instead of being able to have a thorough, laid out, executed plan of, okay, this department's going to need help here soon, this department's going to need this software soon, being ahead of the game, we're in a situation where because of the deficiencies in these departments, they're causing us to be or to have less time on our hands than we would have had we addressed them early on. But because everything's chaotic and all the departments are behind, call it archaic, if you will, or whatever, but it's, it's draining the time that we do have already. So now we're having to work longer hours to try and go back around and beef these departments up. But I'll give you an example. Probably the one that hits us the most is our IT department. we made some strides last year where we, spent probably, I don't know, maybe 10 grand, nothing major, but probably 10 grand into getting a better IT system set up for our company. And immediately, right away, it was already insufficient. As soon as we invested that money, and right away it was insufficient. Day one, we got it rocking and rolling. It was insufficient. So since that time, we've been trying to figure out, okay, well, this is working, I guess, but obviously it's like I said, costing people a lot of time because of its insufficiency. So I guess to anybody coming behind where we've already been, my advice would be to plan out in advance every single detail of the company, especially infrastructure, what it's going to take to be at the level, because we all set those goals, right? Because they tell us you have to write a business plan, even though people usually write them and then tuck them away and never look at them again. But
yeah.
Seriously, though, knowing what I know now, I now understand why they want you to write a business plan, and not only just write it, but live by it, is because in a proper business plan, you're going to spell out a lot of that stuff. I'm talking about not just 2-page document. I'm talking about a multi-page, well-designed business plan. You're going to spell out a lot of those things, and then you're going to adapt it as you grow. Yeah. And infrastructure being one of those things that you take these departments and what is the true cost of setting up a proper IT department that would be sufficient for a $20 million company? Because that's where we want to be in 5 years. You need to figure out those things. You need to spell it out on paper, and then you need to look back at that document constantly. And as soon as you think it's time, whether you have to borrow money or not, get it in place in advance. Have it set up so that you not only have 3 people pulling from it, but it's the best IT system you've ever seen, or it's the best payroll system you've ever seen, whatever it may be. That's probably where we went wrong. Waited too late to try to beef up these departments.
Have you seen those really fun-looking infographics at conferences? They're basically a cartoon representation of the main takeaways from the keynote speaker's talk. Well, we've started doing those for some of our B2B growth interviews. I posted the first one on LinkedIn, and the response was amazing. There's no way that I'd be able to afford those types of graphics, though, if it weren't for Kappa 99. For just $399 a month, Kappa 99 offers an unlimited graphic design service. And it really is unlimited. They do all of the images for our blog. They've done all of our pricing sheets, our case studies. They can even handle the creative for your ad campaigns. So head over to b2bgrowthshow.com/design and sign up for their 15-day free trial. That's b2bgrowthshow.com/design. Your life is about to get a whole lot easier. All right, let's get back to this interview.
And this last one, I think, is also going to be extremely important because you've got, like we've been talking about, you are trying to balance your sort of existing infrastructure with the growth. You're making this transition. Now let's talk about, how do you handle then your customers during this period of growth? You've got to balance the old customers that you have and try and take advantage of these new opportunities. But again, there's a cost to missing out on opportunities. You want to take advantage of them, but where do you strike that balance, and also maintaining the strong relationships that you've already had that have helped you get that growth in the first place?
I think this is one that we've actually done a really good job with. This is one that we have reacted to when the time was right. So we have this growth. We have our core customers, and really we had one big customer that funded most of our growth that landed us on that list. They're the ones who brought the sales, and that company was Home Depot. Nobody's not unfamiliar to probably anybody who could be listening to your show, but we decided that obviously any good business person is going to know you can't keep all your eggs in one basket. They're not going to continue to be here for 50 years. There's probably a greater chance they will not. So we took the money that we made from them and we invested it back into the company to not only support them, but also support future customers that we were going to go after. Yeah. And ties back into setting up your infrastructure and building up that department. That's when we set out to build up that infrastructure. Although it was a little late, but that's when we set out. So I think you got to set procedures, or not really procedures, but you have to set boundaries and guidelines for your customers early on. As soon as you have a a healthy dose or a healthy number of good customers, you're gonna continue to get those small customers, which you built the company off of. You know, when you're young, you take on every opportunity for everybody, no matter how big or small. And you're still going to have those small opportunities, but there will come a time when you have to look and realize that I have these 5 really big customers of mine who have projects galore. I mean, they're begging for somebody to come help them with these projects. We're here. But you know what? 40% of our day is tied up on these $200 sales or $400 sales that aren't making anybody any money when you really look at it. You don't want to turn your back on those people. You know, I'm the type of person, I don't ever want to turn my back on any customer. But I think what we really did well was we realized early on that, okay, these smaller opportunities are greatly taking away from the potential to get these other bigger opportunities. So what we did was we put caps, limitations on, we'll process your order, but it's $250 minimum. Or you can't just walk in the door and expect us to drop what we're doing and go for your order. You know, we had to put those boundaries and rules to follow in place for our customers. But, the biggest thing we did well was we took the money we were making off of the big projects and we invested everywhere. We didn't just, go to the Caribbean on it and enjoy a good year. You know, we definitely, it's probably our biggest kudos. I mean, we really did a great job of investing that money back into the company, and it was all across the board. We invested it in every single detail of the company for sure.
That's fantastic. Yeah, very forward thinking. Just an intelligent way to sort of earmark that windfall. That's fantastic. That's what you got to do. You take it and you reinvest in the business. Dwayne, this last question is something we've been asking a lot of our guests in 2018. You're the co-founder and president, again, of Advanced Packaging. You've seen all this tremendous growth, which, again, congratulations for that. I want to know then sort of whether it is personally or professionally, what kind, or a combination of the two, what kind of legacy are you hoping to leave behind at the end of the day?
Well, for me, it's pretty simple. In terms of what I would like to be remembered as or what kind of legacy that I would like to leave is I try to leave everything better than I found it, whether it be a project, a job, dealing with a customer, an employee, a random person on the street that I didn't have to speak to. No matter what it is, everything that I touch and approach, I want to leave it better than I found it. I want people to be able to say that, no matter what, every time I talk to that guy or every time I've seen that guy, everything was always positive. He tried his best to do what was right by everybody. And I was raised that way. My business partner evidently was raised the same way as well because he has the same mentality, and we really mesh well there together. But every employee that we have, which we're still a fairly small company in general, but we do have a number of employees now, and I treat them all the same. I don't care if they're the lowest paid person on the totem pole. If I see them out, talk to them. If I know they're having something that they're dealing with or an issue, or if I see any opportunity to give them advice, shed some light, whatever. If it's a customer, I want them to remember us as a company who always put them before our needs or our desires or making money. And I try to, I did the same thing with my children. I take the way I was raised, I take all the good from it, and I try to pass that on to them. And then I take all the things where I felt like, my parents could have possibly done a better job at. And, if I realize that, then I try to say, if they could have done a better job, what would that have been? And so I take that and I tweak that and I give that to my children as well. So try to approach everything the same way, just leave it better than you found it.
That's fantastic. It's a great legacy. Honestly, your genuineness comes across in not only this interview, but the interactions that we've had. So if anyone listening is interested in connecting with you after today's episode, they want to find out a little bit more about you, about the topic, about advanced packaging, what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
The easiest way would be to go to our website. It's www.advancedpckg.com. And, you can learn a lot about us there. That's it's an old website. We paid $800 for that website in the very beginning from an old buddy of mine did it for us, and it's still sitting there today. we did the SEO ourselves, my partner and myself. And then we actually do have a new website, though, that's being developed right now that should launch later this year. And but it still tells all about us, and that's the best way for somebody to get in touch with us.
That's fantastic. Well, Dwayne, thank you again so much for your time. It was an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
The honor's all mine. Thank you guys a lot.
There are lots of ways to build a community, and we've chosen to build the B2B growth community through this podcast. But because of the way podcasts work, it's really hard to engage with our listeners. And without engagement, it's tough to build a great community. So here's what we've decided to do. We're organizing small dinners across the country with our listeners and guests. No sales pitches, no agenda, just great conversations with like-minded people. We'll talk business, we'll talk family, we'll talk goals and dreams. We'll build friendships. So if you'd like to be a part of a B2B growth dinner in a city near you, go to b2bgrowthdinners.com. That's b2bgrowthdinners.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.